Hello, ma'am. And good evening to you, ma'am. For today, I will report the CDI-7 sa imong gihatag for me na i-discuss na ko, ma'am. So, I will start, ma'am. Okay, first of all, what is vice? The word vice comes from the Latin word vitium, meaning fault or defect. It is associated with a number of crimes traditionally classified as offense against public decency or morality. A vice can be viewed as a weakness or moral dilemma more than an addiction. For me, vice is like an addiction, like for example, is pornography and etc. Kanang maka-pa-addict sa tong utok, ma'am, kanang makapaabusar na, which is mali. And it is a bad or undesirable character trait. Traditionally, drugs, alcohol, tobacco, watching pornography, yes, tama akong gingon kaniya, and gambling are the forerunners in the classification of vices. But eating sugar, driving fast, or cussing can also be considered as vice. For me, vice is a meaning of addiction. Anything, basta maka-addict siya, ma'am. Pero ang iyang pagka-addict kay murag ka ng mali siya na pagka-addiction sa ato ang kinabuhi. Vice crimes include criminal prohibition of consensual sexual conduct, bigamy and polygamy, prostitution, indecent exposure and voyeurism, obscenity and child pornography, profanity, gambling, alcohol-related offenses, and drug offenses. When can human act or behavior become vice? There are human act or behavior that some of the most commonly referred to vices, and that includes greed, anger, lust, envy, gluttony, arrogance, and sloth. Meaning sa sloth is laziness. Each of these is a character trait we find in people which is on the whole is undesirable. So first, ma'am, gibutan akong mga gipang explain Audrey. So first, ang isa ka tao is gibatik anger. Ang anger means kanang rises the level of vice when it is so strong or deeply held that a person comes to despise or feel rage towards specific individuals or groups of people to such degree that they want to exact revenge or otherwise bring harm to others. For me, anger is kanang murag na suko jud ka, man, baka na murag nag-rage ka. Dili tanan anger is vice sa. Na siya level if moabot na sa point na 100% na anger. Rage siya gina siya na makauna-una jud kag balos. For example, balos ka ng, for example, nagdumot kasi sa katao, maka-create jud kag anger sa imong utok na nadyo kay plano mo revenge kay murag dili jud ka mahimutang o dili ka makabalo sa iya, ma'am. Arrogance. People who are arrogant tend to have an elevated sense of self-worth, leading them to believe they are better than other people. They tend to see themselves as superior to others. For me, arrogance is like murag ikaw ang pahawd-hawd ka, murag feeling nimo ikaw ang pinakahawd sa tanan, which is dili and which is mali. So meaning, imong buhaton na dapat kay dili jud ka magpalig-alig. Kaya wala ka kabalo sa imong palibot na napay mas hard sa imo. Arrogance also is a vice. It is a bad trait. Dili gusto malamangan. Yes, dili gusto malamangan. Gusto siya ihatanan. Murag feeling siya ray dato. Gusto siya ray dato. Way makalamang sa iya. Or always maghambog sa ubang tao. So every time na ang arrogant person is malabuan, he or she will always be anxious kay unahan na siya. For example, in the word anxious, dili di siya gusto malamangan. For example, ako, isa ko na arrogant tao. Tapos na ako yung mga balitaan na malamangan sa ako. So meaning, ako ma-anxious ko kay anxious like ka na murag masuya ka. Nanong naabsan ko niya kay dapat ako lang. Pero which is mali gina siya. Okay. Gluttony refers to eating or drinking to excess on habitual basis. Also include the habitual excessive consumption of alcohol to the point of extreme drunkenness or even passing out. Mao ni para nako ang pinakamakita gid nato kung ang isa ka tawo is na vice. Mao ni sila ang kusog mo kaon like enemy sige og kaon. Murag naigo ko ani char. Siyempre, murag maigo po ko ani kay ako sa una na sige jud og kaon. Ang akong appetite is kaon. Pero dili almost, dili every minute, dili every seconds. Sige og kaon og kani mga palahubog, kani palahubog. Syempre naman din addiction ng alcohol. Isa pa, kanang mangita na yung lawas. For example, akong papa mahubog, ma-okay siya bagawma, pero di na po siya makainom, mag-init ang ulo. Like murag mangita na bulog alcohol iyang lawas na murag ang iyang sign na mangita alcohol is moinit iyang ulo. So meaning mao gyapon yung matawag og addiction kay nagapangita. Greed. Greed leads to people seeking to gain more and more money and goods, often compulsively and without regard to who may be harmed by their laser-like focus on continuing to accumulate wealth or material possessions. So meaning kani for me greed is kanang murag naga-ipon jud og mga kwarta bisag daghan kwarta mo ipon gyapon og kanang mga goods na murag kuan basta for me kanang naga-ipon lang gid siya. Next is lust. L-U-S-T. Lust. The vice of lust isn't about romantic interest or love, but rather self-gratification. Lust isn't always sexual in nature. This term can also refer to an overwhelming drive or desire to own or possess material possessions. For example, a person can lust after a luxury vehicle, diamonds, riches, and etc. Sloth or laziness. It is more of a complete lack of effort paired with a habit of laziness. A person is exhibiting sloth when the individual doesn't engage in things that really matter. Ang katapulan also is a vice because usually mga Pilipino siguro tag unya-unya which is nahabit na nato. Hantod magkraming mga pressure ta, bitaw tama ta. Mostly Filipino kay tamad. For example, sa kong kasing mama. Nak, palit sa dito itlog. Mao niya na ma. Pero hantod sa moingon lang, hantod sa ma-point lang masuko yung mama. Kaya maka-cause of pressure kay magkarakara ka kay nasuko na yung mama. No, so that is called sloth or laziness. Laziness means katamad. So next, what are the moral and ethical perspective of vice? According to Aristotle, he defines moral virtue as a disposition to behave in the right manner and as a mean between extremes of deficiency and excess. Which are vices? Vice was mostly defined in theology as the absence of virtue. So ang kabaliktaran sa vice is virtue. Virtue is a trait that deemed to be morally good and has a good moral being. Overall, mayog batasan og tao, while ang vice is a bad trait. Correct. Okay, next. Why is vice an interest law of enforcement? Siyempre, vice is the arm of the police department considered with immoral activities. For example, balik ta ganin sa first topic nako, vice is an addiction. Like for example, kanang always na mo ginabuhat pero imong ginabuhat kay which is mali na siya. These activities like prostitution, illegal gambling, pornography, yes, mubalik din yung pornography kay number 1 gini siya. Illegal sales of guns, yes, pwede. Alcohol or drugs are against the law which kasagaran ng tao is ilang gina-violate to earn money. So meaning kung ibutan na to na gina-violate to earn money, consider diri ang shabu. Yes, consider ang shabu diri. Kay diri ang easy money or some people is nagakapit na lang sa patalim mao ilahaning cause ni siya harm not only sa perpetrator but also sa victims. Yes, madami jud ang victims kay also kay kablo nga naman. Victims can considered as appeal na sila kay nipalit man sila mismo. Vice can be acted upon and can lead to criminal conduct. Yes, nadyo na sa mga Republic Act. Nadyo na sa batas, nadyo na consequence, makulong jud ka. So next, historical evolution and implication of vices in society. Very little known about drugs in the Philippines during the pre-Spanish era. The intoxicants and stimulants used by the early Filipinos were fermented alcoholic beverage in the masticatory preparations known as nganga. In vernacular, narcotics including marijuana were not in the list of vices in the country at that time. Bitaw, marijuana? Okay. The opium poppy plant on the coca bush were absent in the Philippine vegetation prior to 1521. During the Spanish era, drug control laws prohibited to use of opium by the native Filipinos and other people except the Chinese. Chinese residents in the Philippines, particularly in Manila, and of the more distant Chinese pariahs started smoking opium in 1780. As a vice, it was not widespread and was particularly accepted and tolerated by the authorities in 1844. So many informing mo dili pa kini siya illegal sa unang panahon. The Spanish colonial government laid down an opium monopoly which entitled the importation by the Spanish government and its sales to Chinese users. At this period, opium smoking became widespread among Chinese as its use was forbidden to Indians, mestizos, and the Filipinos. So meaning dagan gud din sila na influence sa una. The compromise policy lasted up to 1896, a period of revolt and insurrection. Okay, next. The government program against vice and illegal drugs. The drug issue is undoubtedly a public health challenge that must be prioritized because it creates complex health and social problems. Yes, correct. The government's intensified campaign to curb illegal drugs will only succeed if it is carried out on various fronts. The Philippine Anti-Illegal Drugs Strategy has been developed as a blueprint of the government's strategies and program in addressing the country drug use problem. Anti-drug strategy, drug supply reduction, efforts involving aggressive law enforcement and prosecution with strong adherence to the rule of law and observance of human rights. Coupled with comprehensive demand reduction initiatives and supported by strong initial ties. Component of anti-drug strategy. Drug supply reduction. Take away drugs from the public through market denial operations and prevention of diversion from the licit to illicit market and reduce the proliferation of illegal drugs through sustainable alternative development programs. Drug demand reduction. Take people away from the lure of drug abuse through policy formulation, preventive education, research, treatment, rehabilitation, and reintegration, and etc. Okay. Next. Provision of alternative development programs and forging cooperation with regional and international agencies and counterparts. Alternative development aims to reduce the production of marijuana and eventually eliminate its cultivation through sustainable rural development and alternative livelihood programs. Next, civic awareness and response. The concept is to promote public awareness on the evils of dangerous drugs and social response by advocating the non-use of dangerous drugs, production and distribution of information, education, communication, materials, and collaterals. Regional and international cooperation. The intent is to forge and foster cooperation with regional and internal agencies, adhering to treaties, formulating agreements, conducting tie-up projects, attending foreign conference, exchanging drug reports, hosting study tours and field visits, sharing of best practices. Okay, number 1, Barkada Contra Droga. Number 2, National Youth Congress in the Drug Abuse Prevention and Control. Number 3, Drug Abuse Resistance Education. Number 4, Kids Against Drugs Program. Number 5, National Drug Education Program. Number 6 is Drug Abuse Prevention Program for the transport groups. And lastly, the number 7 is Nationwide Caravan of Youth Against Drugs. Ma'am, that's all. Anyways, good evening, ma'am. That's all for my report, ma'am, in CDI-7. Thank you, ma'am, and God bless.